welcome, my friend, to Next Level Change Success, a change conversation for leaders, project and change practitioners for today and tomorrow. My name is Therese Perez of myvirtualchangemanager.com, and I'm an experienced change and project professional and people leader with many years of experience in the industry. I love business, and I love the people side of business especially. So nothing lights me up more than seeing people use change management, project management, and strong change leadership to engage, motivate, and inspire people, and ultimately transform organisations. If you've heard about change management and have no idea of what it involves, then you're in the right place. If you know about change management, but you want to take your practices to the next level, then this is where you should be. I'm going to share the stories of my experiences, interview some fantastic people, and I'm going to explore all of the challenges and opportunities that you face in organisations right now. So please join me and let's go and have some fun. Welcome to Next Level Change Success. My name's Therese Perez. I'm the founder of myvirtualchangemanager.com, and I would like to acknowledge that I'm recording on Tharawal country today. Today we're going to talk about change from a leader's perspective, and I was reflecting during the week around the difference in perspective that you have when you're a leader of a team going through change versus if you're a change practitioner. And I've been fortunate enough in my career to be both, and there are definite challenges when you're in a leadership role. And so today I'm going to step into the shoes of a leader in an organization and talk with you about the challenges that leaders face. And they're real challenges, not just perceptions, yet they're challenges that can be overcome. So it's interesting to unpack these challenges with you today. The first one's going to be the leader's response and the pressure they're under, whether they vocalize it or not, around time. And knowing that leaders are under more pressure than ever to deliver, to keep their team performing and also build up their team so that they're high performing. And then to have to lead change or be sponsor of a change, as well as continue to lead change within their team, as well as to keep the wheels going, the lights on when it comes to leadership, and do a good job in that space. Now, the frustrated leader is going to say, I don't have enough time, I'm struggling, and special middle managers often suffer from this because of the demands coming from above, and they might also have demands coming from their peers and then also from their team. So it's a bit of the sandwich in the middle, the meat in the sandwich, I should say, the sandwich in the middle, the meat in the sandwich, as we say. So what can a leader do when they're engaging in change, needing to sponsor a change, as well as maintain changes within their team? And the response and focus that they can have, and the reminder that they need, and if you're a people leader listening to this podcast where you're leading change as well as sponsoring perhaps a program or project within your organization, reprioritization is needed when you're actually taking on that sponsorship role in addition to everything else. Different if you were just leading change with your team, but certainly needing to reprioritize your own calendar, free up time to dedicate to that sponsorship role. You're going to be invited to steering committees, you're going to be invited to a number of program meetings, you're going to need to escalate and discuss issues with potential peers as they come up to make sure that you can work through the issues and clear those roadblocks for your team. So definitely a reprioritization of your own calendar will need to take place so that you can dedicate more time to those issues and to that program in particular to be an active and effective sponsor. That's the first thing. So if you're coming across that strain of I don't have enough time to do this, it really does come down to reprioritization. A byproduct sometimes of this as well for your team will be that you will be able to allocate and delegate more work to your team. And if you're in a bind where you're thinking, I can't because I don't have a team who can pick up this piece of work, then you really do need to self-reflect on your role as a leader and not empowering your team enough or developing them enough to make sure that they could lead and be autonomous in their work. if they have too much of a dependency on you, by starting off with that conversation with your team members to say that actually I will need you to step up, I'll need you to take on more work, I can provide you with the guidance and change up your rhythm with your own team as part of sponsoring a piece of work, that is also going to lend itself to a positive outcome for your team members where you're going to see if they can actually step up or not. So there are a couple of aspects there around the I don't have enough time and that I'm really struggling with my own work as well as sponsoring this program is you actually need to shift who you're being as a leader in leading a change. And that shift can be very empowering for your people, as well as shift you to be more of a high performing leader versus potentially a person who's getting into the details too much. So, the second challenge for a leader is not knowing what to ask. So I'm going to be sponsoring a piece of work, I'm going to be a change sponsor, but I don't really know what to ask in this space about the change itself. I don't know what I should be asking for of my change manager. I'm not even sure of there might be a bit of a story going on around I don't want to look silly as I go through this process and ask her the wrong questions. This is where capability uplift or self education in this space is really important. And if you're finding that you're going through that yourself around whether it's being a program sponsor, being a subject matter expert, it is worth becoming familiar with the project frameworks, change frameworks that exist. And I'm putting a couple of links of blog posts that I've done in the past around questions to ask when it comes to change. And they can be questions that help you interrogate, I guess, in the right way and explore risks. Maybe also ensure that the change plans are robust enough based on impacts. So there are particular questions that you can ask to actually elicit that information, and then you can play more of an assurance role in making sure that risk is being managed effectively, because this is one of the biggest things when it comes to projects or programs is that no one's really exploring what could go wrong enough, and it can often result in real issues arising after implementations. So the questions to ask: good to upskill for yourself when it comes to the change itself, to know what to ask, what to expect, the major phases in a project or program, so that you can ensure that the right practice is being followed. And that's capability uplift is a response. Once again, you might need to dedicate some time to that. You might need to spend a bit more time with your project management office if you have one in your organization, or you might need to come to my virtual change manager, the website, and have a look at some of the tools and resources and utilize those just to understand the project or program world and change world so you know what to ask. The next challenge is going to be I need to work with my peers. And this is a really interesting one from a leadership perspective, because if you've got a culture in an organization which has indicators around being siloed, and sometimes this can happen at leadership level as well, people working in very individually, very comfortable with that, but not so comfortable working together with others. If you're going into an organization with that culture in a leadership role and you're sponsoring a piece of work, is understanding and navigating effectively your peer group. And that can be challenging, absolutely, at times, and especially if you don't necessarily have the right level of respect for someone else in that leadership group. And I talk about this because it can happen, absolutely. It's only natural. There'll be either that you've joined an organization and you might have variations in performance at leadership level, and you'll think, well, why do I need to go and talk to that person about this? They should just do it. I just want their team to do it. But that's not what a healthy ecosystem looks like in an organization, and it's certainly not the right way to go about things is to avoid having the conversations, avoid having tough conversations. And when it comes to leadership, that's what it's all about. So, regardless, and my personal philosophy has always been, regardless of whether you think that that person is doing a good job, because we're all we're all judging each other, I'm sure, in organizations. But regardless of whether you feel or have that sentiment or have it expressed to you from your people around whether that person is good at their job or not, the role requires respect and it requires involvement. And so the fundamental principle I always go with is what roles in the organization and what people in the organization need to be aware of this and as part of this group. And I might invite them, they may not turn up, yet it's not to say they weren't invited and that the space wasn't created for their participation. And so, really, this is about how you navigate that as a leader. Some leaders might really struggle with that and be very driven from an egocentric perspective around, I'm not going to invite that person because I don't get along with them. Those type of things, which can happen, can become very schoolyardish, quite frankly. But I have always taken we're in an organization, we get paid to do our jobs, we invite people to meetings, we try and facilitate and catch up with them after if they can't attend for one reason or another to keep them across things, or send an email summary, do whatever you need to do to keep people informed and give them every opportunity to participate. If you get to a point where you're about to go live and all of a sudden someone starts to raise issues from the area when they haven't actually been actively participating and you've created the space for them to participate, well, then that's what you play back to them around you've been invited to every meeting. I have sent through emails. We've kept your people who report into you informed. We've asked them to raise things with you. We've done everything we possibly could. And having that factual based conversation is important if that arises, because it can. I've certainly been in organizations with leadership peer groups where that has happened, absolutely. And I've always thought, well, I can hand on heart say I've done everything possible to involve that person into this project or program. So peer involvement, being able to navigate complexities, dynamics, bring people to the table, negotiate, they're key skills that as a leader you really need to flex and you really need to build, that will put you in good stead to manage change. Because a lot of things and a lot of management challenges that you have as part of a change actually has to do with how well you can navigate that environment. Then decision making is also really key. The challenge that leaders have around what decision is mine to make and what decision is others to make, or what decisions do I need to escalate, especially if once again you're in this middle management cohort. It is important to sit down, and you can sit down with your people leader if you're in middle management and ask them what they would like oversight of at the origin of a project or program, just so it's clear for you what is within your remit. And there are certain structures, like if you have financial delegations, that will be a delegation schedule in your organization, which means that you can make sure you line your decisions up in relation to that. And from a program and project perspective, that's really important. If you're a sponsor, know what you can approve financially and what things you need to go to certain groups to approve. And then when it comes to risk management and knowing what you need to also inform your leader of, if there's anything, my rule of thumb is always if there's anything that's going to be controversial at their level, and knowing what's the type of talk or focus is it strategic, from a strategic lens. It actually says anything that is linked to a strategic outcome for the organization. I'm going to make sure my leader's aware of that, across that, and is also across what support I need. And then most other decisions are yours to make. And when it comes to decision making, it is important as a leader that you have a framework that you use. I oftentimes will ask the individuals questions. I want stats and facts, so I don't do it based on someone saying, yes, there's a lot of these impacted, or there's a few people who are involved in this. I need to quantify how many people are impacted, what's the risk related to those people, like what roles are they in, and also involve my peers. If I find that it's actually impacting other areas, I need to go and have the conversation with my leadership peer, around this is what we've discovered, this is what we think, who else should we involve in this? So decision making, it can sometimes take a little bit longer to get to an outcome. Sometimes there are options that need to be considered, and I might say, okay, well, let's explore the options that we've got. And I often like that. It's the way my mind works, is that nothing's ever clear yet. We should do this. I want to know what the impacts are of the decision so that everyone's fully informed and that we can agree and land on a way forward, and then continue to monitor and maintain after that decision's made if that's required. It's really an art and a skill. And sometimes decision making where leaders get caught up in is because either they've been burnt in the past, so they've made a decision that's come back to haunt them, and rather than reflecting on, okay, what did I do and what can I do differently to get a different outcome if I play it back again, it's more just I don't feel comfortable in making a decision, I'm just going to keep escalating. So that is sometimes the behavior if they feel like they're not safe with things. And for myself, I've very much been around the space of I get paid to think, I get paid to make decisions. I just need to know what those delegation boundaries are and have that discussion with my leader, ask them how informed they want to be about certain pieces of work, and then that almost helps me get clarity. Then I can move forward with decision making, and I do it confidently. Doesn't say that I don't feel nervous about some decisions, even once I've explored all of the information or been given all the information. But sometimes you don't have the luxury of time either, so you need to get as much information as you can. And if there's pressure time, or time pressure, I should say, to making a decision, then I have to go with half of the information, but I will let my leader know. And if I need counsel from them, I will seek it. So these are things and just some many, I guess, tips around what you can do to improve decision making if that's something that's not currently your strong point as a leader, and ways in which you can move through things. But one of the biggest areas of feedback I often get is that I am a decision maker, and as a result of that, I get things done. There aren't many roadblocks which are immovable or that actually block a whole entire program for a period of time. Oftentimes, it's actually about how do we continue to do things while we're still unpacking this, because is it truly on our critical path or not? So, there's just some of the challenges. Time, which you'll hear, the challenge of time for leaders, and some of the hints and tips that I would say you should really explore as a leader: the reprioritization, the delegation of more tasks to your team. And then we head into the lack of confidence around knowing what to ask. And that really comes down to understanding program frameworks, understanding change frameworks and how they work at a very high level. I'm not saying you need to become an expert in it, but certainly becoming familiar with it. And it's more accessible than ever. And certainly check out myvirtualchangemanager.com. We have some quick e-learns that you could do to understand the ways of working when it comes to change. And then the need to be able to navigate your peer group is really important as a leader. Being able to work with others is really critical, and collaborate and drop the ego in that, which I think some leaders just really struggle with. That is just the reality and what I've witnessed and experienced. And then the decision making aspect, because you will absolutely get questions around, we're not sure about XYZ, can you come back to us about it? When it comes to projects, programs, and change, even down to we're not sure how to engage this particular group, what do I do about it? And this really does come down to your ability to analyze options or ask the right questions, to have options analyzed, quantified, risks quantified with the different options that you might be exploring, and be able to know what's within your realm of delegation and then what you might need support from your people leader. So I hope that this helps. This is the world of change from a leader's perspective. Do I have enough time? Do I know what to ask? Am I able to navigate the complexities and political landscape that I operate in as a leader, which just exists, which is all the dynamics, people dynamics at a peer level? And then, am I really strong in decision making? And am I clear on my delegation? I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you come back and listen for more. If you like what you hear, I really would appreciate it if you would share it with your friends, your peers who might be in this space, those who really would benefit from understanding change better, who might be struggling in these areas. You might have colleagues who are leaders who you might want to support in this as well. And come and visit us at myvirtualchangemanager.com. We have a lot of resources and we're building more and more every day. We want to keep the change conversation alive. We think it should be accessible. These skill sets should be accessible to everyone, and it's a muscle that all leaders should have in organizations. And why do we think that change matters? Because your people matter. Have a great day.